Yo, yo, yo. Today is a Quad Cortex day. So, I was having to think. Now, I know what you're thinking. Scott, what the fuck are you doing thinking again? Because the last time you did it, I thought, was when you bought a Quad, bought a Hoton Ampero to compare against the Quad Cortex. That was a stupid idea. But, today. So what I was thinking was, now, for all of those out there that have got Quad Cortex, I bet you that I would say at least 90% of your patches are based around three of the main normal amps out there. And what I mean by normal amps are the standards. An EVH 5150, a Mesa Boogie of some sort, or a Marshall JCM 800 or 900, something like that, yeah? Or a Plexi. Because what we do is, when we have the chance to download all of our legendary amps that we've all wanted when we were younger, yeah? Getting the Quad Cortex is the chance to own all of those amps you've always wanted. Now, what did you want? Did you want the tone or did you want the name? And the reason why I'm asking this now is I'm asking the question of, when you got a Quad Cortex, what the patch is called, or the profile, sorry, is called, is irrelevant. It's how good the actual amp tone is, yeah? End of story. Because when you gig in, or when you're doing your live, when you're playing in the house, when you're playing to different people, they don't think, oh, I wonder what profile he's using. They're just thinking, does that amp sound good? Yeah? So, what I've got today is, I've got three of the biggest big hitters out there. Yeah? I've got an EVH, I've got a Marshall, and I've got a Mesa Boogie. Okay? So I'm going to play you those amps, and I've also got 4 other amps. Okay? And the 4 other amps that I bet you a lot of you out there will go, I've never even fucking heard of that amp. Wow. So I'm going to try and hopefully broaden your horizons on what's out there. Now, as usual, all of the sounds and all of the tones in the amps and all that are completely free and available to download and not going to cost you a penny. The only thing it's going to cost you is about 2 minutes just to search it on the Cloud Cortex, or the Cortex Cloud, whatever it is, and download them. Yeah? So, I'm going to play you those 7 sound samples now. Let's see if you can guess what those amps are. Have a think of what your favourite is. Yeah? Because there are varying different types of amps here. All of quite of a heavy nature. Yeah? And I want you to choose which one your favourite is. Forget about what they are. Just choose what your favourites are. And then once you've done that, have a guess of what they are. Okay? And then we're going to come back. And we're going to, I'm going to play you through one by one. And tell you a little bit about them. And perhaps broaden your horizons. Okay. So let's have a listen to those amps. Okay, so which was your favourite? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which one? Okay, so should we have a look at which one's which? Okay, so let's pop onto the chord Cortex. Okay, so the first 3 amps are the big hitters. Yeah, it's the ones that I would say 90% of us would go off and first straight away select. Okay, so the first one being, give you a hint, I would say it's got buckets and buckets of overdrive, more than you would ever need. It's the 5150. Yeah, this thing has got absolute buckets of gain. So I've got this on the blue, from the blue channel. I was hindered by some of the amps I could have had because of the processing, because we've got so many bloody amps there. But yeah, this has got so much gain. Okay, the next amp we're going to look at, which is number 2, I would say it was again one of a real big hitter in the 80s and 90s. It still is used now for rock and metal. It's an American amp. Yeah, I would say, give you a clue. It's got a dirty grey used metal plate on the fucking front of it. Yeah, it's the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, and it sounds a little bit like this. Yeah, big beefy fucking sounds. Yeah, cracking tones there. Okay, the third one, so amp number 3. I'm not going to beat about a bush. one of the biggest amps ever. Marshall JCM 800, the Brit 2203. Yep, which sounds like. Yep. Okay. So that's the top three. I would say, yeah, that 90% of us have gone for one of those three in our patches. Yeah. I bet you any money that hardly any of you will have even probably heard of the next four, sorry. So, let's not take a look at the next four. Would you have ever dreamed of putting this amp in your patches? The PV Bandit. Okay, so the PV Bandit sounds like this. Okay, so the PV Bandit was one of the most popular beginner amps that you should see thousands of them. Yeah, every bugger has had one at some point in time. Can you see where I'm going with this now? That you don't necessarily have to have a named, like a really prestigious named amp in your amp tone. It all depends on how the fucking thing sounds. There's no point in on having a profile of an amp that that in real life would cost you £5,000, but doesn't sound as good as a profile of an amp that maybe would cost £200 because it's irrelevant. Yeah. Okay. So the PV Bandit. As you can see, I've had on this profile. I've had to back off a good bunch of the gain. To us, but let's pop the gain up. Absolute monster. Anyway, so that was a PV Bandit. Right, the next amp has got build quality reputation about it. However, myself, I've had two of these amps. I had the combo versions, and I've never had, actually I had a head version as well. I never had any problems with them whatsoever. So, it's the Bugera 333XL. Now, if you've seen my channel before, I've done some videos on the old Bugera. And it's an all-valve 120 watt amp. Apparently, it was cloned on the PV XXX amp. It's a 3-channel, clean, rhythm and lead. Now, as standard, they are a little bit raspy. They need to be tamed a bit. Now, what I did on mine was I changed the first preamp valve from a 12A AX7 to an AY7. That completely changed the amp, made it sound amazing. Anyway, sounds like this. Cracking, absolutely cracking. Would you have necessarily thought of putting the Bugera as your profile in your tone? Okay, let's move on to the next one. So again, 80s wise, when you put people like Steve Lukather, with all their big Bob Bradshaw rigs, yeah. This amp was extremely popular. It's been recorded and used live by so many different artists over the years. Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, ZZ Top. It's a solid state preamp. It was made by Marshall. Can you get it? The JMP1. So this was a solid state. It's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? A solid state preamp that was often paired with the Marshall 8008 valve state power amp. But it sounds like this. Absolutely bonkers. Beautiful sounding amp. Really, really nice sounding amp. Typically Marshall. It's got that mid-bark to it, isn't it? Okay. And the last amp we're going to touch on now today is probably one that hardly any of you have even heard of. There's not a huge amount of detail out there about it. It's just a 2-channel, all-valve, 100-watt amp. Yep. But some people these days now, apparently, when I was doing some research on this amp, it's used by some of the Doom players and stuff like that. So it is the Laney VH100R, and it sounds like this. Yeah, cracking amp. Absolutely cracking amp. Okay, so did you get any of those? So, 4 amps you may not have heard of before. Yeah, it just things like the quad Cortex. It just really gives these amps from yesteryear another breath of fresh air. We grew up on these. I mean, I grew up on these kind of amps, especially amps like the PV Bandit that you'd never think of using now. But give it a bit of a tweak and it sounds like an EVH 5150. Potty. But people don't realise and don't think and don't want to know what the actual name of the profile you're using. When you're playing, all they're interested in is how it sounds. And can you play it? So, hopefully this video has made you, I also like kind of cast your hooks a little bit further afield into different kind of amps out there, having to think of what other amps are out there, rather than just going for your straightforward. I mean, I'm my own worst enemy. Yeah, I use a Plexi and an AC30, 2 amps that I absolutely adore. However, I'm loving the tone of my Bulgara that I've got on, or that Bulgara I've got on here. I'm half tempted to get another Bulgara myself and do a profile of it, because I love the tone of it. Who gives a shit what amp it's actually based on if it sounds amazing? So I hope you had a bit of fun with this, guys. I'm might be doing a few more Quad Cortex ones over the next few days or so. So keep an eye out. Anyway, from me, from the Bears World Honest Reviews, guys, I will be seeing you very soon. Ta guys.